This right here is my 1990 Honda Civic. I've been modifying it to make it a modern, retro-futuristic masterpiece. The last video, I installed a Tesla Model 3 steering wheel into it with a working horn. And today, we're installing a push-button start. Which begs the question, why tear apart what is arguably the cleanest example of a 1990 EF hatch that even exists anymore just so you can make it a bit cooler? Besides the fact that it's gonna look nice and be convenient, it also makes my car a lot harder to steal. Believe it or not, Hondas are some of the most stolen cars in the world. And that's not just because they're the most sold cars in the world. Especially 80s Hondas are dirt simple to steal. Way too easy. So we're replacing it with a push button start with an encrypted key that you can't copy with a flipper, and we're getting our car safe. Let's get right to it. Alright guys, welcome back to our shitty neighborhood and welcome back to another video on the 91 Honda Civic. Today we're installing JDI Ghost Key. Wow, what a familiar sight. Seems like we were just here. That's because we were. We're once again addressing an issue with the steering wheel, kind of. Steering column, dash, area around here, whatever you want to call it. So we're installing a push to start, but not just any push to start. This is the JDI Ghost Key. They have a personal guarantee that no two keys are ever made the same. And well, it's different from standard aftermarket push to start buttons. Those typically wire up to your regular old steering console, and you can hot wire a push to start button, just like you could hot wire a regular key cylinder or use a leashy to pick one. Unfortunately, because power locks aren't a thing on this, I'm still gonna have to carry this guy around, but at the very least now I won't be able to be hot wired. If anybody is interested in buying one of these, they are super picky with what cars they work with. I know that this specific kit only works with the 1990 and the 1991 Civic hatchback and regular Civic sedans. It also works with the DC Integra, so take that as you will. They have different makes and models for different makes and models, so if you are interested, go ahead and click the link that I'm going to leave in the description in order for you to pick up one of these because they're super cool. All right, let's get building. There's a few cool things about this, and let's go over those real fast. This is not only super repeatable, it's also super reversible. What I like about this is not only do you not have to drill any holes in your existing dash, the only thing that you're destroying are the tamper-proof screws within the key cylinder. And you're not even really destroying them. You just have to remove them with a chisel. If one day I do end up selling this car, I'm gonna wanna take this and my push to start button kit with me. So all I have to do is hold on to my factory key cylinder, and when I do eventually sell this car, it'll be as simple as removing both of these in an afternoon. But without further ado, let's get to it. One last time for old time's sake. Right, where to start? Well, I've lifted this steering wheel as high up as it'll go, and I've moved my seat as far back as it'll go. I'm not entirely sure if it'll be necessary to remove the steering wheel. I hope not, because if I do, I'm probably going to end up removing this airbag, and that might undo a lot of the work that we did in the last video. So here's hoping I don't got to do that. We'll see. But what I do know that I need to do is there are two screws in this guy that I need to remove, and there's a metal ring that a lot of people will miss, especially if you have the stock steering wheel on here, right here. That metal ring needs to come off. So let's do that. Should just come off that easy. This isn't the first time I've taken this off, so it might be a bit harder for you the first time around, but these are off now. Keep an eye on those. This is a good way to lower the value of your car if you lose those two pieces of plastic. And if you do, good luck finding or 3D printing a new one. Off with the metal ring. Try to make sure that you don't lose the tiny screws that go into the bottom plate here. It's not going to hurt anything, but it's always good to have them. There's a little ashtray or change holder or whatever you want to call it in this part of the dash that I like to keep my screws in. All right, now here comes the hard part, getting these tamper-proof screws in. I do have this chisel here. I've got a couple different sizes as well. Also got my Walmart tool set. Not sure if we'll be needing that, but it's always good to have handy. We've got this carpenter's hammer. What we're going to do is we're going to take this tiny little guy. We're going to get in there. Hopefully I won't have to remove the dash or anything. We're going to try and get these tamper-proof screws out. Alrighty. These tamper-proof screws are kind of frustrating to get out. You can see that this one is chewed up a bit. The idea here is to line up your chisel with the screw head in this little gap right here and then get it out that way. Once you get it bitten up pretty good, there is a fair chance to be able to get it out with your fingers. But the problem there is this guy on the top here. Look, I really don't want to take the dash apart in order to get this done. A lot of the videos I saw online suggest you do that, but I don't want to. And this guy is a bit harder to reach, but I'm sure sure I'll get him out. It's just gonna be a matter of time. So I'll figure it out and I'll see you guys once this is taken care of. All right. Clearly, in order to get to this point, you had to remove that guy, which means you probably already know where the plugs are, but let me show you just in case. This guy, the shorter one that connects to the key cylinder, is attached to this here, which will be hanging down. And then this big chunky 5-pin guy goes into the 5-pin one there. And then the smaller, teeny tiny 4-pin guy goes into the 3-pin guy in there. The tiny one. You see it? There you go. Oh yeah, by the way, ignore this. This is from the last video. If you didn't see me install that car alarm, this doesn't matter. Also, this guy might be in the way of your plugs, so you're gonna probably need to rip this guy out of there. Just plug it back in when you're done. Alrighty, fellas. 2 tamper-proof screws, 2 plugs, and a lot of frustration, and we got this guy out. Let's get the plugs in! So that old grody thing right there gets replaced by these 2 wires, which are connected to these 2 right here. Another thing I'd like to point out, the brake switch that you have to connect to is behind the fuse box. So you're gonna have to take out those 2 top bolts there to get to it. That's good. Also, a good place to do the ground if you're not already, looking for a place, is this little support here for the little neck thing, the clamshell that covers up all this nasty junk. They say you're supposed to use an unused ground, but we will see if that is the case. I got both of these bolts removed from the fuse panel. I dropped it down, reached my fingers in there, pulled out the brake switch, and then I added the little red quick connector and plugged the orange cable into it. These purple wires are used for immobilizer units in cars with them. That's not going to be included in the Civic. So you can just crimp them off, throw them out, or hold on to them, whatever you need. So now that we have the brake switch and everything wired up correctly, there's the cord for the brake switch with the quick connector, and this plugs directly into the box. This plugs into your fuse panel and to the ground that we attached. This plugs into the box. Now what we have to do next is the fun part. The button and the antenna. They are all both connected to the same cable, so this will plug into the box. For personal reasons, that might be a bit obvious. I'm not going to show you exactly where my antenna or my button's going to be installed, but I will show you how to do it. If you want to install it in the factory key cylinder, you take the button and you fold these little black hinges forward. And then you're going to grab your factory plastics where it shows the keyhole here. You're going to stick these little metal clips in through the factory keyhole. You have to remove this gasket. Then once it's in there, you're going to fold these back. And while you have this out, why not run it through your dishwasher? Wipe her down with some detailing wipes. Get all that 1989 gunk out of there. There's also a pretty hard spot to reach when you're at the car wash because the steering wheel's in the way. Make sure she's good and clean before she goes back on there. It is a bit scratched up because came in touch with the key, all these years, but there you go. Well, look at that. I changed clothes. This is actually multiple days in the future because I couldn't get this to work the same day. Regardless of that, I did get it to work eventually. I installed my button in my antenna, plugged everything up. It was surprisingly insanely simple. They say plug and play and they mean it. The hardest part of this entire process is going to be you removing those tamper-proof screws. I need to move my car so we can turn this off so you can hear me a bit better. Give me a sec here. I'm out here to give my thoughts on this product. I've went ahead and installed all of this, gotten it looking nice and pretty. You can see the button right here. It's not perfect. There are a couple minor annoyances, but all in all, I'm happy. Here's the deal. I paid for a nicer key, so unless you do so, yours isn't gonna look as nice as this. It's also real tiny. Actually, the ones that don't look this nice are even tinier than the stock ones. So there's that. If you don't have a huge keychain like I do, it's not really going to bother you. But what you do is you wave this around in front of your antenna and you wait for 2 beeps. Once you hear those 2 beeps, you put your foot on the brake, you hold it there, and then you hold the button down. I said it at the end of the last video and I'll say it again. Seeing a push to start button that looks this factory work as well as it does in a car that was made in 1989 is absolutely ridiculous. That's the coolest thing in the world. It's so funny to me to see this head unit, which was purchased by the original owner in 1989 alongside this car, be so close. I mean, literally right next to a push to start button out of a Tesla Model 3. When I show people this at car shows or literally any place else, they think it's the funniest thing in the world. And the fact that not only do I have this, but I also have a working Tesla Model 3 steering wheel, that is the coolest thing I've ever done. done. It's also the reason that I've started the series on this channel. I'm going to be absolutely, completely redoing this car. I want to get an 80s style digital dash installed. Something like the Mazda 626 or the older Corvettes. So if you have any inputs or any suggestions on how I could go about doing that, please, please, please let me know. In the next video, we're going to be installing some really cool JDM spec taillights and replacing the Civic center garnish in the back the car was backed into. And we're going to be installing some fog lights in the front of the car. All of which will be real simple to do, and it should be a pretty short video. That's next week. All said and done, I don't think I could be any happier than what I am right now. So what should you do next, huh? I've gone over the entire process of installing this thing. What is your takeaway? Here's what it is. Especially if you drive yourself early 2000s, 80s, or 90s Honda, you need to go to the link in the description and buy yourself one. That also goes for anybody who drives a Kia or a Hyundai. They're all dirt simple to steal. The Kia boys are a thing, and you really don't want to find out what they are. I guarantee if you're looking for one, they probably sell it for your car. I will say if you buy one and you're running into some problems with installing it, watch this video on their website, and you can always reach out to them on Instagram. They're always going to be able to help you out. Other than that, next week we're installing JDM tail lights on the Civic, so stay tuned and join us again for that. And if you have any suggestions on other modifications I can make to the car to make it more of an 80s cyberpunk retro futuristic experience, let me know. Go ahead and check out my Instagram, but if you don't, guys, remember, no one cares.
Oh, brother, this guy stinks!